Welcome to Beneath the Surface with TJ Woodward and Rachel Kove. In a world that often moves quickly and stays on the surface, this is a space where we slow down and turn inward. Together, we explore what lives beneath our stories, our reactions, and the ways we've been conditioned to see ourselves, others, and the world. We dive into themes of recovery, trauma, identity, polarization, and conscious living. Let's begin. So incredibly grateful that I get the honor and have the privilege of creating this limited series podcast with my good friend, Rachel Kove, my friend and colleague. And we are going to be exploring beneath the surface in a world that tends to have polarized thinking, in a world that often stays on the surface. We're going to invite you to move beneath the surface. And if there's anyone who I want to have these conversations with, it's you, Rachel.
Thank you for having me on this show. I'm so honored to be here. You are truly one of the most gifted conversationalists and speakers and thought leaders. And the moment we met, our conversations went from surface to beneath the surface within 20 seconds.
I think within 20 seconds as well. So we're just going to do this.
Yeah, we're just going to do it now.
And you know, by the way, this is a limited series podcast. However, if the audience loves it, we can always come back and do more.
I'm down with it.
So our topic today is beneath the surface of shame.
Whoa.
Let's just dive right into the deep end.
Well, I think shame is one of the most interesting subjects to talk about. I think the connection to religion is one of the most important connections to make around it. And I think you talk about this all the time at the emergence conferences, right? Shame cannot live in hiding. But first of all, I think it's important to define what is shame?
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing for me is to distinguish the difference between guilt and shame. Mm-hmm. Guilt is an idea or a belief that I've done something that's wrong. And I'm using air quotes because it's one of the words I've chosen to remove from my vocabulary. But for the sake of this description, guilt is, I believe I've done something wrong. Shame is, I believe there's something fundamentally wrong with me. And we work with them very differently because guilt is behavioral. I did this thing. I'm going to, make it right with you, and I'm going to feel better.
Yeah.
Shame is, I did this thing. Because I did this thing, I feel broken. Or actually, I did the thing because I feel broken.
Yeah, I think it's a really important distinction to make. I always learned that shame is I did something bad. Guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad.
That's right.
So I always tell people, I didn't walk the dog today. I did something bad. I forgot I did something bad. Shame is I didn't walk the dog today. I'm a bad person.
Right. And shame lives in secrecy, silence, and judgment. And I think that's important because talk about beneath the surface, we're really pushing it down and not even acknowledging it. And then it's living in the unconscious and it's running the show. So if I believe I'm broken, I will not only act broken, but it's the lens I see the world through. So everything I see is through that lens. See, it's true. I am broken. That's the shame spiral. I feel broken. I act broken. Therefore, I feel more broken. And it's a downward spiral. So big question, but how do we bring it up and work with it?
Well, working with it, that's the key, because anything that I reject will continue to rule my life through behaviors, through thinking. Yeah. And I think it's important to look at shame is survival, right? In a tribe, the shame helps us feel protected. Like if I do something that the group will not accept, the shame is protecting me because I need their acceptance and I need them to love me and I need them to want to protect me in order to feel safe, right? So the shame can also be a protector in many ways. And I think the most profound transformations and shifts that I've experienced in my own behaviors, in my own thought process, in my own relationship to self is when I work with that thing.
Yes.
Working with it.
Yeah, instead of fighting it.
Yes.
I think that's what we're pointing to that's so important. And more than anything, shame needs to be brought into the light with what I call compassionate curiosity. Because I can be curious about something while also being really judgmental. And judgment restricts. It keeps us stuck. Shame to me is like swimming in oatmeal anyway. Like I just can't get out of this belief that I'm broken. And in my experience, we come into the world as whole, complete, and perfect beings. And we then get programmed, as you're saying, by society and community. And different communities have different norms. Different cultures have different norms. So what will be shameful for one group will be accepted as normal by another. But we start to absorb this, and then we have this belief that we're broken. And for me, that ruled my life. And then the strategy I used, what I call BS, brilliant strategy, was to manage that shame by not letting anyone see it, fighting against it, rejecting it, and judging it. And it just kept me stuck.
Yeah. And I think for me, I developed strategies like perfectionism. If I'm perfect 24/7, you will not see that inside I feel broken.
That's right. And that's the key. And I think we're leaning into something so important. In my model conscious recovery, I identify toxic shame as one of the roots of addiction and mental health concerns. And then we develop strategies to manage it. Not always, but often the behavior is opposite of the strategy. And so I will often say, underneath everything, there's a place within us that's whole and perfect, and people push back because they think I'm talking about perfectionism. I'm talking about the essence of who we are is still perfect.
Yeah.
But when I believe I'm broken, then I might try to act perfect in the world so you don't see it. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting about beneath the surface is that's the subconscious.
That's right.
Right? So I think that is part of the problem with a lot of adults right now is if they're not thinking about the shame, because a lot of people are operating pretty robotically, have a lot of property, money, prestige, they have a really good image. So they don't spend a lot of time with their thoughts. And they do everything they can to avoid that somatic experience of shame. So a lot of them could be in denial that they even have shame because they have the money, they have the followers, they have the fame, they have the image, they have the job, they have the role as a parent, they have the perfect partner. If the image is perfect, well, I'm fine. That's the word. I'm fine, right? But shame is beneath the surface. It's so tricky because until you start investigating your own mind, you don't even sometimes realize it's there until you're in the presence of someone else who's talking to you, asking you questions, right? It takes a lot of self-reflection to even start cultivating a relationship to shame because you've spent your whole life avoiding it. I really believe shame is at the root of addiction.
For sure.
It is at the root of addiction. And if at any moment during my childhood, I did something that I perceived would get me rejected or abandoned by my parents, if I did anything that I just perceived would cause my parents to not love me or abandon me, my mind goes, click, we're not going to do that again. We're going to turn that part of ourselves off and we're going to put it back there somewhere, but it's not really gone.
Well, and you're speaking to something that's so important because most often the shame gets developed so early in life that we don't even have developed brains. So when we get into recovery or go to therapy, and like you say, a lot of people are walking around, I would say most of us, and I'll put myself in that camp, I was walking around not realizing that shame was running my life. I just kept saying things like, why do I keep attracting unavailable men? Why do I keep having these jobs that are unfulfilling? You know, that why question and that sense of like, this keeps happening, it's because it was trapped in the unconscious. But when we heal that, the important piece, and this is what you're speaking to, and I think we're getting to the root of it, we don't heal it cognitively. In other words, it's not about changing the narrative that is so popular now. Change your story, change your narrative. Well, if I could do that, I would. I have to heal it from the place of origin. And the place of origin was we absorbed and decided these massive things as very little people. And it's not just a narrative, it's a frequency. And that frequency becomes the operating system of our life.
Yeah. And if you were raised in a home where shame is what was modeled for you, then shame also becomes very familiar to you, becomes the norm. It becomes your motivation for changing things. It really, to me, shame feels like glue. It's a negative idea that's glued to my body. It is in the body. It's in the body. It's all in the body, right? And that's why we have to cultivate a relationship to body and mind, that they're both working together.
Yes.
To create what you actually desire. It's just that if you developed these beliefs and this emotional experience attached to the belief at such a developmentally young age, it does take a lot more work to kind of like unglue that, right? But you can't unglue that without any self-reflection skills.
Yeah.
Like one has to build a relationship first to awareness, right? Just awareness itself, consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's the first step to everything is always awareness. Otherwise, I'm walking around like a robot, unconscious.
That's right. The unconscious is running the show, and most of us aren't even aware of it. So my unconscious beliefs, ideas, perspectives are literally the lens I'm seeing the world through. And here's a perfect example. I believed so deeply I was unlovable. I decided two very interesting things at a very young age. Everyone will like me. No one will love me. I mean, when I sit with that, talk about awareness, and awareness. I can see how those two core false beliefs, I mean, everyone will like me is one that I enjoy having. I still like to have that one because I do like everyone to like me. But that no one will love me, that was so painful because I would walk into a room and the vibration of I'm unlovable would cause me to choose the person that would confirm the core false belief. Even though the strategy was please love me, please love me, please love me, I was choosing beautiful and amazing people who could not possibly love me because that unconscious vibration had to match frequency. And the deep work for me was, where did this originate? What was not felt at that time?
Ooh,
because when I was 7 years old, I closed my heart. When I was 5 years old, I decided I was not smart. Somewhere along the line, I decided I was unlovable, and I tried to correct that or fix it. And I'm using that consciously because I felt broken, fix it from the outside in, but healing shame is from the inside out.
I was really hit with what you just said. It made me emotional.
Say more.
When you said what was not felt.
Yeah.
Whew, that is so important to be said.
Yeah.
What was not felt. That's what it is.
And this is, because we're dedicated to have these episodes be about 15 minutes, we're going to close the conversation, but it's sort of a little bit of a cliffhanger to the next episode, even though we did not plan it that way, because what is not felt to me is the core of this. And if we look at it through the lens of addiction, and it doesn't need to be addiction, it can be the strategy of perfectionism, it can be the strategy of control. I'm running from the feeling. Yeah. And the feeling, it's because it was too scary to feel it at 5. We're gonna have an episode on healing sexual trauma. Yeah. But because of my very early sexual trauma, it was not safe for me to feel. So I buried it.
Same.
Right. So why don't we...
I just want to say one last thing.
Yes, please.
What was not felt was unconditional acceptance. Yeah. Unconditional love. The feeling of love is I can relax in who I am. The feeling in love is I am going to be so comforted in my being. Who I am is good enough. I don't have to prove my worth to you. I don't have to prove anything for you to stay attached to me. You're going to stay connected with me and keep me safe no matter what. There is nothing I will do. There is nothing I will say that will make you stop loving me. That is the job of the parent. We in our being, in our spirit, we already know that, right? We already know that. And the job of the parent is to keep that consistent so that our souls can thrive in what it already knows. The soul comes in here already knowing I'm perfect and whole, right? But we also have these primitive animalistic brains, right? And so if the people around us are triggering that chronic stress, right, then we're removed from that knowingness of who we are and we go into survival mode. So what isn't felt, right, is that feeling of, am I going to be loved if I do this? So how do you heal shame? Compassion.
Yes. And the self-parenting is we now get to, and I'm going to use that language consciously, get to create that space of inner safety for ourselves, and that which most of us did or didn't get in different degrees growing up. I didn't get it was okay for me to simply feel what I was feeling. So I buried it. I shut down. And then I wondered why my entire 20s was, when things got difficult, why do I find myself numbing out? Well, because that was a very effective strategy for survival, like you said. And then that became the automatic response. So as we close out this conversation, I know we're going to dedicate these 15-minute episodes because I think there's something really powerful there. So everyone watching, we are excited that you're joining us for this series that may or may not be a limited series. And we look forward to diving in beneath the surface for our next topic.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us on Beneath the Surface. As we close, we invite you to notice what may still be resonating or unfolding within you. There's no need to resolve anything, just allow it to be met with curiosity and compassion. If this conversation was meaningful, please subscribe, share the episode, or leave a review. It helps others discover this space and continue the conversation. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, stay present, and keep exploring what lives beneath the surface.